I gotta piss. Probably should have went before I recorded. Hey guys, how are we? Episode 450 of the podcast. I hope we're doing well. Welcome to BD4. We're gonna be talking Knicks. The Knicks stay hot and slide past the Chicago Bulls in OT last night. We're gonna talk about that here in episode 450 of the podcast. Wow. So let's get to it. I'm your host, RJ. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to BD4, an RJ Carbone podcast. BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. BD4 is a 5-star show on Apple Podcasts, also available in video format on YouTube and Spotify. So thanks for stopping by, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Champion of the world, turning, looking, see ya!
Anthony for three, bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied!
Penetrates, creates, and showing some dexterity as well with the left hand.
Yankees win!
All right, welcome to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You're listening to episode 450 of BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Watching Home Alone, Lost in New York, I believe. Never gets old. Hey, we're going to talk Knicks in this one. We are. We are definitely going to talk about last night's overtime win. The Knicks are hot, 5 in a row. I'm feeling pretty good, cautiously semi-optimistic. But before we do, I do want to bring up the other team that I root for, like a crazed maniac. Because lately, actually, like literally less than an hour ago, maybe even, the New York Yankees signed Carlos Rodon. I don't have any notes for what I'm about to say, but I do just want to give my initial thoughts on this. I think it's great. I think Rodon is great. I think he makes the rotation potentially great. I thought the Yankee rotation was very good last year, as I've said multiple times. I thought in the playoffs it was solid. Outside of maybe a couple of games where Aaron Boone, went to Tyone out of the bullpen and Schmidt out of the bullpen, I thought the pitching as a whole was very solid in the postseason. So getting Rodon, essentially replacing Tyone, who went to Chicago, I believe, the Cubs, is a significant upgrade. That gives you, if healthy, a rotation of 3 guys at the top who can pitch like an ace on any given day, right? And if you want to add in Severino, that's 4. So this has potential to be even better than they were last year with Rodon. It has potential to be a top 3 staff, maybe more, in baseball if they're healthy. So I think it's a great move for the pitching staff. There's always a but in there with me, right? So I'll give you it right now. I'll throw down the hammer. I am not jumping off the walls because I feel like the Yankees still haven't addressed their number one problem. And their number one problem is in the lineup, right? At times, they can go through these strikeout slumps. They just don't hit at a volume that you'd like to see them hit at. Their situational hitting is very poor, right? They need more contact hitting. And there's a gigantic gap still, in my opinion, between the Yankees and the Houston Astros. And that gap could have been a lot smaller had the Yankees went out and grabbed one of the bigger shortstop names. And the last 2 off seasons, the Yankees have had a void to fill as shortstop. They've acknowledged that. And funnily enough, the last 2 off seasons, we've got some of the bigger names in the market you're going to see as shortstop. You had Trey Turner, Xander Bogaerts, Carlos Correa twice, and last year you had Corey Seager, Trevor Story, Marcus Semien. Some of those guys I wasn't too fond of, but a whole lot of them I liked. And the Yankees walked away with 0 of them. And of these shortstops, multiple of those guys has potential to bat around 300, to strike out at a moderate rate, nothing more, and hit you home runs. And I believe the Yankees need something like that. But they didn't. So they really there's nothing really left on the market in terms of addressing their lineup significantly. They can go and grab Benintendi. They can go and move and make a move for Brian Reynolds. That's great. But it's not enough. It's not enough to move the needle, in my opinion. Their biggest issue in the postseason, year after year after year, is in the lineup. It's making contact. It's hitting with runners in scoring position. And they don't address that. And they have all these star-studded shortstops available who do those kinds of things, who've got postseason resumes, championship rings, and have a little swagger to them, and they did not get a single one. And they walk away with, once again, IKF, Donaldson, and you're relying on some prospects. That's not enough for me, man. So it's great that they got Rodon. I think the rotation's going to be, again, even better. But I'm still sitting here and seeing this Yankees team as the same team. I made a joke. I posted on Facebook as a joke on my BD4 account. Instead of losing 4-2 next year to Houston, they'll lose a game 3-2. Like that's what it feels like to me. So those are my thoughts. I just ranted for about 7 minutes on that. Let me know what you think. But we'll put this part in the beginning of this Knicks episode. Let's talk Knicks. Welcome to the show. Let's raise the vibes here because we got some good things going on with the Knicks too. So we'll head to break and we'll get back and we'll talk about this OT win. Hey guys, so if you are a listener of the podcast often and you want to know where to find me on social media, you can find me on Facebook at BD4. You can find me on Twitter at BD4Pod, and you can also find me on Instagram at Rob J. Carbone. All right, welcome back to the show. So Knicks, right? That's what we're here for, talking Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks stay hot. They slide past the Bulls last night in OT. Whew, that was something. It was a classic Knicks Bulls matchup last night. Sheesh. It was really some awesome stuff. The Knicks in Chicago looking for 5 straight. The first of a 2-game road series in United Center. So they go there again on Friday, tomorrow. As I'm recording, it's Thursday the 15th of December. And they get it done. They get it done in overtime with a 128-120 victory. And there were really a lot of excellent efforts all around. Randle, hot early. He finishes off with another 30-point game. I think that's 6, maybe 7. I'm going to say 6 on the season. Brunson, on a sprained ankle, not only played last night, but possibly put together his best outing as a Knick, which is hilarious. RJ Barrett with another strong and productive performance. Quentin Grimes with some key buckets. Mitch on the glass again. The bench unit making strong contributions also. So offensively, I liked it. Some great ball movement, some excellent shooting, and great execution down the stretch for the most part. Oh, boy. The defense wasn't as sharp. DeRozan and Levine were just tearing through the Knicks defense. They combined for 57 points together. The Bulls shot 55% as a team. But despite that, there was no question that this game, as fun as it was, may have been closer than it needed to be. And you can once again thank the third quarter of doom, as we call it here, in the Knick universe. You had a 9-point halftime lead, shriveled down to 4 points after the third quarter, but it felt like it was a lot worse. Like, the Knicks just didn't have any rhythm. No consistent baskets, no consistent stops. Like, DeRozan and Levine were getting hot. At the same time, the turnovers were killing the New York Knicks. They couldn't really generate any good open looks. A lot of side to side, not a ton of player movement. A lot of late shot clock possessions, and on the other end, again, just a lot of fouling. The refs were handing out whistles like candy last night. However, late in the game, the Knicks figure it out. They find their offense, and most importantly, they D-up to close it out in OT. And it was Brunson putting the team on his back and taking over in overtime. The Knicks would win by 8 points, so they're now 15-13 on the season and 5-0 since their most pitiful effort of the season versus Dallas, which feels like so long ago. But a good win. And I want to start off with this win. We'll get to Brunson in a second because I'm going to give him the game ball amongst the starters. But I want to start off with Julius Randle because I believe that Julius was fantastic last night. 31 more points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, 8 for 19 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, 80% at the free throw line, and he did that across 46 minutes. He scored 15 points in the first quarter. He got them off to a hot start. That's very important. He has been on fire, man, and I must say he has had a good year. He really has. But you just saw he went into his bag last night. Chicago was sending traps and triples at times, but Randle would make the correct read, kick out. He was hitting up his cutters. He finished with 7 assists. And offensively, when he was in 1v1, he was attacking the man coverage. He was feeling it in iso ball, killing the mismatches. Anybody they threw at him, he was just taking advantage of it. He took 15 free throw attempts. He was pounding the ball inside the paint. He played the boards well. I think he grabbed 13 rebounds, they said. His only negatives, I'd say, were the 6 turnovers. He only shot 42%, and his clutch play was once again less than stellar, and we do need to bring that up. I don't want to harp on it too much, but, late in the game, the Bulls, they stopped switching, so Randle had the mismatch Caruso on him near the top of the key for a number of possessions. But instead of attacking right away, he sort of waited for the double to come, and he botched a few possessions doing so. So that led to some of the turnovers. It led to a few of those late shot clock scenarios. But, the elephant in the room, of course, is that final shot in regulation. That was probably the definition of brutal when you look it up in the dictionary. Is Julius Randle last night at the at United Center in the final seconds of regulation. The game is tied. There are 24.7 seconds left. Randle grabs the ball and basically tries to be Carmelo. Because I just got some major PTSD from Melo. Now, Melo has had his clutch moments, but most of them, let's be honest, came before he came to the Knicks. He was clutch in Denver. He had some moments in New York, but a lot of it was ugly in those final seconds. And I just got PTSD when I saw Randle grab the ball, hug it, and drain the clock all the way down to 0.7 seconds before he chucked up a baseline fader, just like Carmelo, and got nothing but air. No net. And the Knicks would go to OT. But first off, if you're Thibodeau, I do not know what you're thinking there, letting that be the play that you design. If you're to draw up an ISO play for Randle every single time, it's the definition of insanity. It was utter garbage, and we do this so much. Randle has never made a last-second basket in his life outside maybe that one time in the COVID season. I think it was versus the Bulls. I think he made like a corner three-pointer once. But for the most part, he's not a clutch player, and we've seen it happen time and time again in these 4 years here with the Knicks. He ends up going 1 for 6 with 2 turnovers and a missed free throw in the from the fourth quarter and on. But it's simple. In moments like that, you give it to your point guard there. You hand the ball to your point guard, and you get out of the way. Which he did end up doing in overtime, so you got to credit him for that. But we literally got Jalen Brunson for those moments, right? He's great in the first 3 quarters, but we got Jalen Brunson to be the stabilizer down the stretch, to be the guy we know we can go to be the closer, to be the leader. He's the best player on the team. That's the guy who should have had the ball there. I get that Randle was hot, but I can go away from that hot hand idea when it comes down to clutch moments and when Randle's got a resume of not exactly hitting those shots. Brunson, I wouldn't have hated if Brunson took it and made a play. If he set Randle up for a spot up or something, or cutting to the rim in a pick and roll or a DHO or something, that would have been great. But Randle going ISO and just milking it down to the final seconds, chucking up a fadeaway air ball, not the greatest idea. Outside of that, though, again, I thought it was a very, 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 very solid game from Julius. And again, I would have given him the game ball if it wasn't for that. But I always put emphasis on what a player does when he performs in the clutch, especially if you're making big money. If you're making money, if you're one of the top bread earners or breadwinners, whatever the term is, on the team, I look at you. I how can I word this without sounding like an idiot? I evaluate you even more when you're in the clutch. But I thought he was good. But of course, Jalen Brunson was even better, and I want to talk about him as soon as we get back from break. Stay with us. We'll be right there. BD4 is located on many different platforms. You can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, and if you do there, be sure to give us a 5-star rating and review. You can listen to it on Spotify, but you can also watch the podcast on both Spotify and YouTube. BD4 is available on many other platforms as well. All you got to do is search it up. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and much more. All right, welcome back to the show. I am your host, RJ Carbone, and you are listening to episode 450 of the podcast. Welcome to BD4. Let's talk about Jalen Brunson.
Bing bang.
Yep. Jalen Brunson gets a bing bong game ball for last night's performance in Chicago. 30 points, 7 assists, 11 of 21 shooting, 3 of 6 from 3, 5 for 5 at the free throw stripe, 39 minutes. Same old Brunson, man. Providing offense in many different ways. Responsible for a ton of points. Scoring, facilitating. Great facilitating last night. Just mixed it up scoring-wise. off the dribble jumpers, some spot up threes in there, post ups, blow-bys, just very impressive. I mean, I was calling for this guy to miss at least 2 to 3 games guaranteed. I might have even said that in episode 449. And he goes out there and plays 5 periods of basketball on a damn near sprained ankle. I think it was a sprained ankle. And puts up what I consider his best game as a Knick. Just dropping buckets. He also dropped, what's his name? Alex Caruso. He touched earth last night. Oh my. So there was less than 30 seconds left in overtime. The Knicks were, I would say they were like a make away from putting this game to bed. And Brunson just crosses Caruso the heck up in the corner for a 3-point look. Caruso falls to the ground, does the breakdance move, and Brunson drills the triple. But yeah, it was amazing. I don't know why Doris sounded so salty. She kept saying at least 3 times within like 30 seconds, Caruso slipped. Like, he got crossed up. But yeah, Brunson was the key guy down the stretch of the game, man. Once again, right? He scored 7 of the 11 Knick points in overtime. And yeah, that shot on Caruso put them up 9 points when he knocked down that final 3 ball. So, I mean, this kid has, we say it so much, he's been a revelation for the Knick offense, you know, as the quarterback. And you've got to love that grit, that New York grit he brings. He plays physical, and he's not afraid to get dirty and go into the paint with the big men. And in an era like this, with load management and, you know, guys taking off because of mental health days and all that, to see a kid like him go out there at this height, this size, every night and play the way he plays, it's impressive to see how tough he is. It's you got to give him a compliment. And it's funny, I'm watching Home Alone 2, and he's in the hotel scene, and he asks, he goes up to Trump, and he's like, "Excuse me, where's the lobby?" And Trump goes down the hall and to your left. It's just funny seeing Trump in a movie. That's interesting. You know, knowing what we know now about him and everything. Yeah, how his perception has changed. But no, this kid's been a revelation, man. He just, the way I just respect the grittiness. I respect the toughness. He's awesome. And he's now got 15 bing bong balls this year to lead the Knicks. So, speaking of clutch buckets, how about Quentin Grimes? I mean, come on. Quentin Grimes last night, showing you why the 3-and-D wing is so important and why it shouldn't offend other Knicks fans when he gets that label from us. You know, people don't like us because they think we're limiting him with that label. But that's a good label to have, man. That's not limited. Like, he displayed exactly what he can bring this team last night. 14 points, 5 boards, shot 5 for 8, 4 for 7 from 3. It was the usual from him. Scoring off cuts, drives, spot up threes. He's just an off-ball weapon, man. And again, that's the perfect. He's a perfect fit for this team because we lack that type of scoring style in a lot of areas. You know, not a lot of guys can do what he does off ball. But yeah, those big buckets in crunch time were the exact reason why Quentin Grimes is important. The fourth quarter, with less than a minute left, DeRozan knocks down 2 clutch free throws to pull the Bulls within 1 point. The Knicks have the ball. Randle spin moves into a triple team, and it looks ugly, but he finds a way to zip it right to Grimes in the left corner, who nails the 3-pointer to give the Knicks a more comfortable 117-113 lead at the time. And then you had the overtime bucket with a minute and change remaining. Mitch gets a big block on Vucevic, The Knicks run the break. Randle again tripled. Finds Grimes, who eventually knocks down another three-point shot, I think from the elbow. Just big-time shooting. Big-time shooting. And with this roster, it is important because it's on him to be that guy who can consistently light it up from three, because we don't have one right now. And he's supposed to be that guy. So it was good to see that. The 4 for 7 was nice. And he played some big-time defense on DeRozan, too, down the stretch. Let's not forget the key stops that he got. You know, he finished with a steal and a block, and he was a plus 14 in the box score, which was the best on the team by 7 or 8 points at least. So I was a big fan of what Grimes did last night. Mitchell Robinson. Another night where Mitchell Robinson dominates in the restricted area. And we're going to talk about his performance in 1 second. As soon as we get back from break, stay with us. We'll be right there. We also have a website now for BD4. If you go to BD4blog.com, you can find the blog, the podcast links, and also where to find me on social media. Just go to BD4blog.com. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. Just give me 1 sec. I need to take a sip of water. All right. Hold on. All right. So, where were we? Mitchell Robinson. Yeah, his performance in the semicircle last night, tremendous. 8 points, 10 boards, and assists, 2 blocks. And if we're talking about key plays, he was big on that Grimes bucket in overtime too. Because again, Vucevic, crafty, kind of like Sabonis, uses good footwork. The head fakes. Mitch almost bit. Vucevic almost gets Mitch to bite on that head fake. But Mitch stays with it, blocks him, and then on the other end, when the Knicks run the break, Brunson puts up a shot. He misses, but Mitch gets the offensive rebound, and it ends up going back into Grimes' hands for the shot. So just possessions like that were very key, being that possession right there, I think, was the third consecutive stop on Chicago at the time. So it gave the Knicks that extra boost of momentum. But yeah, his presence down there just constantly forced Chicago to go mid-range a lot instead of attacking the hoop. The Bulls outscored the Knicks in the paint by a good amount, but most of those shots in the paint were those little 12-footers that DeRozan likes and some of the other guys shot. I would say Levine was really the only one last night with consistent success inside the restricted area. At times, maybe Vucevic, but consistently, not much. It was pretty much just Levine. So Mitch did a nice job containing that. The Knicks also won the boards 48-31. And they dominated the second chance opportunities with 20 points to 9. So 6 more offensive rebounds last night for Mitch. 6. I know he's not great on the defensive glass, and I know he doesn't provide a ton of scoring himself, but his hustle on the O glass creates extra possessions for the Knicks every single night. So that's creating offense right there. In the first quarter, he found a cutting Grimes on the baseline, and he also put back a Randle miss. In the fourth quarter, few moments, he cleaned up a Randle miss with about 6 or so minutes to go. He cleaned up those RJ misses. He put back a Brunson miss, and then, again, the Grimes playing overtime. A lot of good moments, man. And he's looked so good since coming back. I had to go into the numbers and look him up. And in his in his last 8 games, Mitch Robinson is averaging 8 points and 12 rebounds. 6 offensive rebounds per game, which is crazy. So, Mitch's critics usually point to his scoring ceiling, right? But if the Knicks had themselves a star wing scorer, I don't think that Mitch's lack of scoring would be under as much of a microscope as it is right now. And center, to me, center is a defensive position. Like, I want my big man playing defense first and foremost. Call me old school, that's fine. But, like, I kind of compare it to shortstop in baseball. If my shortstop isn't the greatest hitter, but he plays a great shortstop, I'm okay with it. Right? Why do you think a lot of people disliked IKF? Right? Because I thought he was an okay bat, at least. But the main problem with Yankees fans was that the defense was not good. But Mitch is at least playing great defense, man. And my problem with him is just the consistency, right? He's been dropping these big-time games lately, but it's got to be more of a regular night for him and not just an outlier stretch, So hopefully Mitch keeps this up because I'm enjoying it right now, and I want him to stay this hot because I believe it's translating into a lot of these wins. RJ Barrett. Quality, again. 22 points, 6 rebounds, a couple assists, 8 of 17 from the floor, 4 of 7 from 3, and 2 of 2 at the free throw line. I liked his effort, first off. His effort was there. He had tons of energy on both sides of the ball. There was that one play in the fourth quarter where he missed a few shots under the rim in traffic, but he kept fighting to get his own rebounds a couple of times. It was very Carmelo Anthony-like. But, defensively, he was more than adequate. He put up a good fight on DeRozan. He's always crashing the glass, but his on-ball defense on DeRozan was good. He had a nice block last night, too. Don't usually see that. But in the first half, I think DeRozan only had 1 make from the field. It was just the free throws that kept getting DeRozan to the line. Kept getting those whistles. And RJ fouled out of the game before overtime on some of those questionable whistles. But offensively, his scoring and the distributing last night was good. Right out the gate in the third quarter. Coming out in the second half there, while every other Knick seemed to be struggling, RJ was on point. Collected 8 points in the period. He was knocking down his open spot ups too, so I give him credit there for knocking down the 3 if I'm going to criticize him when he misses them. Yeah, he was playing off of Brunson nicely, playing off of Randle some. He was attacking in transition again. He's always doing that. Some nice passing in there too. He moved the ball much better than the 2 assists showed. Some nice kickouts. Some nice cross-court dimes to the weak side baseline. So, they didn't always end up counting as assists, but he passed very well, and it's now 3 consecutive 20-point games for RJ, which is at worst an expectation for him now. But what I like is that the efficiency is better lately. He's making smarter reads, making better decisions, smarter drives, open 3-point looks. He's shooting 26 for 56 over the last 3 games, which is 46%. And he's 39% from 3 in his last 8 games. So that's a plus. And, another night where both RJ and Randle play well at the same time. And it's no coincidence that the Knicks have been 5-0, and during this stretch, both he and Randle have been playing well. So, usually, that's not always the case. But when they do play well together, good things happen. Let's go to the bench, and I want to give Immanuel Quickley his game ball. He gets a bing bong ball.
Bing bang.
Last night, Quickley put up 9 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists, and 4 steals. So he didn't shoot great, again, as you can see on the screen if you're watching. 4 for 10, but there were some dumb decisions in there. Jesus. Like forcing jumpers, and I didn't like how he rushed that 2 for 1. But he did knock down enough to give him 9 points in 35 minutes, and he also had 4 dimes versus just 1 turnover. His defense, though, stood out to me most. I thought his defense was great last night. It was the best part of his game. Quick hands, both in the passing lanes, and he had quick hands on the ball. Poking for steals. Pursuing rebounds once again, just very aggressive on the boards. And he did a nice job filling in for RJ in overtime. Held his own defensively there. Deuce McBride showing flashes of 3-and-D early on, but never really sustained that. He knocked down 2 quick 3-pointers, I think it was in the second quarter. But he didn't really get featured much from there, and he also just wasn't aggressive enough when he did have it. But the defense was there. His hustle is always going to be notable, right? He's jumping up and down. He's hedging. He's recovering. If he's getting caught on the screen, he'll fight through it. Everything. Watch him play. He's always sprinting. He's finding a way to sprint. Even if you got to stay stationary, he'll find a way to move. He did get crossed up by Caruso, actually. But I thought, all in all, it was a good defensive night for Deuce McBride. But yeah, you just offensively, this was a good night. The Knicks shot a very efficient slash of 50%, 53% from 3, and then 80% from the free throw line to get their 128 points. Only one player didn't shoot well from 3. Quickley, who was 1 for 4. Everyone else was at least 40% or better. So that's pretty impressive. The first half, the bench unit helped them get that lead. The starters helped them maintain it. Again, good ball movement, but a little too much ISO down the stretch. And we've talked about before Thibodeau's fourth quarter offense never being our favorite. But you do got to credit Tibbs. Maybe Cam Reddish was the cancer all along. No, I'm kidding. But, Deuce over Cam has worked. Grimes over Cam at starting wing has worked. As much as I hate it, I'm not a fan of the back of the jersey. I'm a fan of the front of the jersey first, right? So I got to give credit. Whatever works, you got to go with. I do wonder if this is all sustainable. I wonder if the defense can keep this up. And even last night, I know they surrendered 120 points, but they did lock down in the final period to help them secure that win in the most important moments. In overtime, the Bulls shot 1 of 7. They scored 3 points, had no assists, 1 turnover, and 1 rebound in overtime. So it was a good defensive effort. Is this defense legit, though? I don't know, man. I'm not going to jump on the wagon just yet. I have to wait and see. But if we can start getting some more consistency from certain guys, maybe this is our identity again. But I don't know. Mitch is going to have to keep dominating on the glass. Can that happen? Will Grimes and Deuce continue to play the way they've been? IQ, defensively, is usually good. RJ Barrett, can he continue to do this? Is Randle going to keep putting in effort like this? Is Tibbs' 9-man rotation sustainable in the long haul? When the dog days come up upon us, how is that going to work? But as for the right now, let's enjoy it. We'll wait and see. But I say, let's enjoy it. Even ESPN has kind of backed off the LOL Knicks hate lately. What's his name last night? Head commentator for ESPN was saying, it just feels like 2 years ago. Those aren't my words. Those are his words. Doris was feeding them compliments. You had Richard Jefferson and Kendrick Perkins saying that the Knicks are better than just a play-in team. That says a lot when you get Richard Jefferson complimenting them. But yeah, I mean, the Knicks are just 1.5 games out of the 4th seed again. You got one more in Chicago tomorrow night. Go there and see what you can do. And who knows? Who knows? So that's it. That's all we've got for 450. Talked a little bit of Yankees at the top of the show. Then we transitioned into this Knicks win. This Knicks overtime win, which was exciting. Yep. We'll get to our final break, and then when we return, we'll wrap it up with our parlay and our trivia, and that'll be that. Stay with us, and we will be right there. Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born. All right, welcome back to the show, episode 450 of the podcast. Let's get to our parlay, RJ's parlay. Welcome to RJ's Parlay, where my degenerate self breaks down tonight's big parlay. If I miss, it's not surprising. If I hit, I'll probably lose it all tomorrow night, because that's how this works. Welcome to RJ's Parlay. Now, this parlay was actually for last night's game, and I ended up cashing. It was a 5-pick parlay, paying out at odds of plus 131. I had the Knicks plus 12.5 on the alternate spread. I had Barrett going for 15-4, and Randle going for 20-6, both rebounds. And all 5 of those hit. So, congrats to me for a change. I have one tonight. It's a 3-picker, 3 different games. Giannis going over 44.5 of points, rebounds, and assists. I love those stat combo ones. They're my favorite, far and away. Zion going over 34.5 points, rebounds, assists. And I've got the Phoenix Suns covering against the Clippers. I think they're favored by 5.5. So we'll see how that all goes. Anywho, that's it for RJ's Parlay. Let's finally wrap this one up with our trivia question of the day. Let's get to it right now. All right, so for this episode 450 of BD4, our NYY-NYK-MMA question of the day is, where does Tom Thibodeau rank among Knicks head coaches with the most wins? Top 20, top 15, or top 10? Where does Tom Thibodeau rank among Knicks head coaches with the most wins? Top 20, top 15, or top 10. Now this is, when I say with the most wins, I mean the most wins strictly as a Knicks head coach. So not including his tenure with Chicago or Minnesota. So one last time, where does Tom Thibodeau rank among Knicks head coaches with the most wins? Is it top 20, top 15, or is he top 10? Let me know the answer wherever you can reach me. Guys, thank you. I appreciate you stopping by. Episode 450 of the podcast is in the books, and I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll see you in 451. That's it. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.